Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's J-Man. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm J-Man, and Happy Mother's Day is something I won't be calling my mom to say because she sucks. Toasty! And that's what today's episode is all about. I'm basically going to bitch about my mom, which I've done tons of times on my other show and will regularly do on episodes of this, but I figure let's just dedicate one whole episode to shitting on Linda. And don't get me wrong, I understand completely that holding on to all of this anger and resentment is unhealthy, and I'm waiting for an apology that is most likely never going to come. So the only therapy that I have, outside of going to an office and being told I should just let it go by some psychiatric professional that I'm paying way too much money to listen to me bitch, is this show where I can do it for free from the comfort of my own basement. So we're just going to basically roll through some of the greatest hits. The first time I ever really felt this sense of adversarial angst between my mother and I is we were coming home from Target and I had thrown a bit of a hissy over not getting something that I wanted. And she had an obvious slip of the tongue, but you know those Freudian slips where you say something that you actually do mean but didn't want to say? To quote her, "I hate you right now." And I said, "What?" And she froze up as we're sitting in the left turn lane at the red light. And I said, "You just said you hate me." She's like, "No, I said I hate your behavior."
I said, "Bullshit."
Like, "No, you said you hate me." Never will she admit it. She could have said, that came out wrong. She could have done a number of things to try to repair the damage. But she didn't, because she's a politician at heart, and when you fuck up, deny, and just keep on going with the lie that you didn't do it. But it did teach me to be very careful of what I say to my own children when I'm upset. And I have a list of banned words and phrases in this house that they're not allowed to use, and one of them is the word hate, because they're young, and they don't have enough life experience to wield that word properly. So I'm like, you can't do it. You can say, "I don't like this," or "I'm not fond of." You know, I'm trying to get them to expand their thought processes while they do so with their vernacular. But if my mom taught me one thing, it's that once the toothpaste is out of the tube, it can't go back in. So you don't say shit like, "I hate you," or "I don't love you," or anything like that, because it's so incredibly fucking damaging. Like, I was 10, and it's been 28 years. And I'm still fucking pissed about it and hurt. So what does that tell you? To say that she was ill-equipped for handling my teen years is a fucking understatement, because my sister, being mentally disabled, never had any of these problems that I did. She was just in the chair, she was full care, she was like a giant fucking baby. So they never had to practice being sensitive or handling the delicacies of when your child gets in touch with their hormones or becomes partially or entirely sexually active. Case in point, I dated this chick in high school from freshman into sophomore year, and there was a few times we tried to fuck. When I say tried to fuck, I did not know what the hell I was doing, and I just basically tried to shove my boner into a dry vagina, and it didn't work. Partially because she wasn't wet, and also because she was very, very petite. So, probably best that I didn't, because I might have tore her. But one of the friends of this girl got pissed that I mentioned it at school and thought I was lying. So she called my mom, remained, quote, anonymous, and told her everything I was saying. So my parents marched me in the kitchen, they sit me down at the table, and they ask me about it, and I tell them. And then what do? They make me call that girl's house so they can talk to her parents to tell them about this. Now, we didn't have sex. Nobody was pregnant. Nobody gave anybody an STD. There was no danger. But my mom calls there, and this girl's mother thought my own was a fucking loon. And she asked her daughter, "Oh, did you two have sex?" And she's like, "No." Which is not a lie, because we never had sex. So then she told my mom to leave her alone and that she didn't want to hear from her again. Now, you could have just had the conversation with me and kept it less fucking insane, but you had to go to the nth degree. Now, if you find out that your kids are actually having sex, getting the other child's parents involved may be necessary. I've seen it happen. Fuck, I've been at somebody's house the day that his parents first talked to his girlfriend after they found out they were having sex because his mom found a Sex for Dummies book under his fucking mattress.
You dumbass.
And I gotta tell you, that whole conversation was incredible to be there for and really fucking awkward. But at least I know how to handle it because I watched two mature, responsible parents calmly handle it, which is the opposite of how my own mom handled it when she found out that I and my girlfriend from junior year into college were having sex. And the only reason she found that out is because that girl's slightly younger sister called our house to narc us out. And then instead of taking the time to see if I was okay and explain the complicated nature of being sexually active and how important it is to recognize those adult emotions behind it and that I was still an adolescent, no, she chose to use Catholic guilt and shame. And it's just like all that did was make me angry at you. It didn't make me learn anything. It didn't make me respect you. It didn't make me handle the gravity of the situation any better. I mean, again, thank you, because you just gift-wrapped me a textbook on how not to fucking handle it with my own kids. If anything, you have been an excellent teacher on how not to parent. Like, for example, if your child has differing views than you, do you ask them about why they came to that conclusion, why they think differently than you? Or do you shit upon the fact that they have different views than you and shame them and then threaten to throw them out of the house if they don't fall in line? Well, if you're Linda, you say, stop telling people that you quit the church. Stop saying that you're not going to be Catholic anymore. If you don't knock that shit off, you're going to be out of here. Well, I'm sorry that you're embarrassed that you have to tell people that, or other individuals asked you about it and you didn't know how to handle it like a fucking adult. Just a scared little child with social awkwardness and eccentricity. But I am my own person and I have all of the agency over my own beliefs. And they don't have to be your beliefs. Just like my own kids. If they choose to believe in God, that's on them. I'm not going to tell them they shouldn't and they can't. And I'm damn sure not going to try to leverage their decision while holding their residency in my own home over their head. That is so fucking emotionally abusive and damaging to somebody's psyche. But she did it. She threatened to throw my ass out on the street because I didn't want to go to church anymore and said I didn't believe in Catholicism. Isn't that a fine fucking how do you do? Is it any wonder I despise this woman? In hindsight, I probably should have gone to like a school counselor or called CPS on her just to embarrass her so that she'd learn the fucking error of her ways. But hindsight's 20/20 and woulda, coulda, shoulda, I guess. The other prime example is, you get your senior pictures taken, and she was having me take mine at the tail end of junior year. So to do that, because I had a buzz cut or I buzzed all my hair off, cue ball style, she made me grow my hair out because she says, I'm not going to have a picture of you and pay money for a picture of you with a shaved head. I don't like it. It's ugly. Well, that's me. That's who I am. That's how I choose to express my individuality. And you didn't acknowledge that. You crapped on it and then forced me to do what you wanted me to do. And now every time I go in your house, behind your TV stand is my senior picture of me in a suit with a really shitty amount of hair looking fucking stupid. And it's a reminder every time I look at it how you treated me in that situation. So how is that wound ever going to heal if you never acknowledge the fact that you said you'd throw me out if I cut my hair? How fucking irresponsible as a parent is that? And you will sit there and attest to everybody that I say it to that I'm making shit up to try to discredit me. You're trying to fucking gaslight me, you sadistic bitch. You said it and you can't even fucking admit it. You won't even entertain the idea that you did this shit. Is it any wonder I grew up to be such a bitter human being? Like, she's so fucking checked out from reality that none of these things she did ever crossed her mind to say, I was angry in the moment and I went too far.
Oh, bitch.
And now, 22 years have gone by. And you still won't acknowledge that you said it. You tell me I'm misremembering. Gaslighting. It's fucking ridiculous. And in terms of also not supporting any of my own views, if I don't vote Democrat in an election, she tells me I'm wasting a vote. Even if I have explicit, excellent reasons in my own opinion about why I'm voting for who I'm voting for, she won't fucking acknowledge that it's anything beyond me throwing a vote away and that I have to bow at the altar of the two-party monopoly on American politics. Just like I don't believe in God anymore and it's such a terrible thing. Or when I was in college, I got pretty close to the end of wrapping up my law enforcement degree and I'm like, I don't want to be a cop anymore, I don't think. This just seems like a shitty line of work. And I guess I went with it because I thought it had some valor to it and I wanted to help people. But I'm much more interested in music. I wanted to go to IPR. I wanted to get into music production. I wanted to learn how to work in a studio. And I was willing to pay the cost of it out of pocket myself to do so. But she fucking nagged and nagged and nagged and would use guilt-trippy phrases like, well, if you don't finish your degree, then you'll never be able to get a cop job. That's fine, I don't want one. Well, you'll have wasted all that money. Not trying to ask me why I've changed my mind or be respectful of my decisions, let me make my own mistakes. It's, no, I only should grow up and do the things that she wants me to do the way that she thinks I should do them. Just like when I got that job offer to be a cop and I didn't want to take it. I was fine working at the jail. I had finally gotten to be full-time at the jail. And she goes, if you don't take this job, you're just going to wonder for the rest of your life what could have been, and you're going to regret it, I promise you. Which is an astounding level of arrogance and emotional manipulation. Like she basically coerced me into doing it when I said I didn't want to. I could have kept my job at the jail and been fine. But no, I went and took the cop job and it sucked, so I quit. And then I was back to square one part-time at the jail. And that fucking haunted me for years because I couldn't get full-time again for like fucking, Jesus Christ, 4.5 years, something like that. And then I got full-time finally, and then I was low man on the seniority totem and got bumped off my shift of preference 3 times. All because I listened to them and I let them urge me to take a job I didn't want. And now if my kids say they don't want something, I'm not going to go, you have to do it or you're always going to wonder. I would instead say, okay, but if you don't do this, you need to be prepared for the fact that one day you might look back and go, shit, I wish I could have done that. So you need to choose carefully because you only get one chance at life. See how one of those explanations is really cunty and one is kind of nurturing? Yeah, that's what I learned from Linda, how to not be the cunt. And I've talked about the Catholic guilt thing multiple times. Well, the mother of all Catholic guilts is after her mother died. And this is when I only had the juice, only had one kid, still with the beast. And after my grandma passed away, my mom had the audacity to try to pass this one by and say, well, you know, your grandmother's dying wish was that you'd get your daughter baptized. I could not believe how fucked up that was, putting that on my grandmother when she's dead and not able to defend herself or be asked the question. Now, was my grandmother an avid churchgoer? Yes. Did she ever give me any amounts of hell about going back to church? No. She did ask, do you think you'll ever go back? And I said, I don't know. I don't feel the need to go back right now. Like, imagine that. Complete generational gap there between somebody in their 60s, 70s, and eventually 80s on how she respected my decisions and at least had some sort of boundary awareness to not press the issue. But yet my mom swears that her own mother was schizophrenic. Isn't that interesting? Does that sound like more gaslighting? Because she totally does it to everybody. And I know it seems like I'm ragging on her and then let my dad off easy, but honestly, he sat idly by and let her do this shit and never once told her to shut her fucking mouth or knock it off in front of me. And she wears the pants in the household, so it's basically like he's getting pegged with guilt, and he just wants to keep the peace. It's fucking pathetic, and in that regard, he failed me immensely growing up. He still does it to this day. He'll fucking say, all right, you two go to neutral corners. I'm sick of listening to this. Doesn't help try to weed through any of what's true and not true or what's right and who's wrong. Never picks a side. Always sits on the fence. So the war continues. Isn't that great? And here I am, almost 39. I still have all this anger and resentment. So I talk about it, and it's therapeutic to bitch on here. And some people think I exaggerate details of my childhood. I don't. And one of my friends says that I should stop acting this way and being so mean to my mom, but he only does that because his own mom is dead, honestly, in my opinion. If he had a relationship with his mother like I had with mine, I'd like to think he'd feel somewhat close to the same amount of anger. but it's my life. You don't live it. Don't fucking tell me how to think or act. I'll do whatever I want in terms of dealing with my own pain and trauma. And one of the things I've done is I wrote a song about it. I'm breaking this song out again for the first time in I think 2, maybe 3 years. And that's how I'm going to close out the show. This song is called Happy Mother's Day, You Suck. You're probably schizo and have OCD. It smells like poop every time you pee. Messenger your cooter crust. You're pear-shaped and have a giant ass and wear parachute-sized underpants. Well, your treadmill collects dust. You tell your friends you're so proud of me, but in private abuse me emotionally. What in the actual fuck? I hate your face and can't stand your voice. All you do is take up space and make noise. Happy Mother's Day, you suck. We don't say I love you, don't want your gifts. I wouldn't cry if your van drove off a bridge. It's unfortunate you ever had kids because you're a heartless, stone cold bitch. Hope one day to pull the plug. Happy Mother's Day, you suck. You suffer from morbid obesity, one ice cream sandwich away from diabetes. Giant ass dent in your couch. You've got a yeast infection in your soul, crapping on all my dreams and goals. Nothing good spews from your mouth. A closet racist and a hypocrite, a Catholic guilt-belching nervous twit. Please jump in front of a truck. No flower baskets for you this year, no card or phone call to spread good cheer. Happy Mother's Day, you suck. We don't say I love you, don't want your gifts. I wouldn't cry if your van drove off a bridge. It's unfortunate you ever had kids because you're a heartless, stone cold bitch. Hope one day to pull the plug. Happy Mother's Day, you suck. Interact with the show on Twitter, What Do We Call It? That is What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm J-Man. And that's the end.